All right, hello and welcome back to Mrs. Cahoon's Cafe. Mm. And we're going to continue on with Farmer Boy. We left off, he just told us about the barns and the animals, and now he's come in, to the house, he's cleaned up, and now it's time for one of Almanzo's favorite part of the day. And one reason why I love this book. The kitchen was full of hoop skirts, balancing and swirling. Eliza, Jane, and Alice were hurrying to dish up supper. The salty brown smell of frying ham made Almanzo's stomach gnaw inside him. He stopped just a minute in the pantry door. Mother was straining the milk at the far end of the long pantry. Her back was toward him. The shelves on both sides were loaded with good things to eat. Big yellow cheeses were stacked there, and large brown cakes of maple sugar. And there were crusty loaves of fresh baked bread, and 4 large cakes, and 1 whole shelf full of pies. One of the pies was cut, and a little piece of crust was temptingly broken off. It would never be missed. Almanzo hadn't even moved yet, but Eliza Jane cried out, "Almanzo, you stop that! Mother!" Mother didn't turn around. She just said, "Leave that be, Almanzo. You'll spoil your supper." That was so senseless that it made Almanzo mad. One little bite couldn't spoil a supper. He was starving, and they wouldn't let him eat anything until they had put it on the table. There wasn't any sense in it, but of course he could not say this to Mother. He had to obey her without a word. He stuck out his tongue to Eliza Jane. She couldn't do anything. Her hands were full. Then he went quickly into the dining room. The lamplight was dazzling. By the square heating stove set into the wall, Father was talking politics to Mr. Corse. Father's face was toward the supper table, and Almanzo dared not touch anything on it. There were slabs of tempting cheese. There was a plate of quivering head cheese. There were glass dishes of jams and jellies and preserves, and a tall pitcher of milk, and a steaming pan of baked beans with a crisp bit of fat pork and the crumbling brown crust. Almanzo looked at them all, and something twisted in his middle. He swallowed and went slowly away. The dining room was pretty. There were green stripes and rows of tiny red flowers on the chocolate brown wallpaper, and Mother had woven the rag carpet to match. She had dyed the rags green and chocolate brown and woven them in stripes with a tiny stripe of red and white rags twisted together between them. The tall corner cupboards were full of fascinating things, seashells and petrified wood and curious rocks and books, and all over the center table hung an air castle. Alice had made it of clean yellow wheat straws, set together airily, with bits of bright-colored cloth at the corners. It swayed and quivered in the slightest breath of air, and the lamplight ran gleaming along the golden straw. But to Almanzo the most beautiful sight was his mother, bringing in the big willow-ware platter full of sizzling ham. Mother was short and plump and pretty. Her eyes were blue, and her brown hair was like a bird's smooth wings. A row of little red buttons ran down the front of her dress of wine-colored wool, from her flat white linen collar to the white apron tied around her waist. Her big sleeves hung like large red bells at either end of the blue platter. She came through the doorway with a little pause and a tug because her hoop skirts were wider than the door. The smell of the ham was almost more than Almanzo could bear. Mother set the platter on the table. She looked to see that everything was ready and the table properly set. She took off her apron and hung it in the kitchen. She waited until Father had finished what he was saying to Mr. Corse. But at last she said, "James, supper is ready." It seemed a long time before they were all in their places. Father sat at the head of the table, Mother at the foot. Then they must all bow their heads while Father asked God to bless the food. After that, there was a little pause before Father unfolded his napkin and tucked it in the neckband of his frock. He began to fill the plates. First, he filled Mr. Corse's plate, then Mother's, then Royal's, and Eliza Jane's, and Alice's. Then at last he filled Almanzo's plate. Thank you, Almanzo said. Those were the only words he was allowed to speak at the table. Children must be seen and not heard. Father and Mother and Mr. Corse could talk, but Royal and Eliza Jane and Alice and Almanzo must not say a word. Almanzo ate the sweet, mellow baked beans. He ate the bit of salt pork that melted like cream in his mouth. He ate mealy, boiled potatoes with brown ham gravy. He ate the ham. He bit deep into the velvety bread spread with sleek butter, and he ate the crisp, golden crust. He demolished a tall heap of pale mashed turnips and a hill of stewed yellow pumpkin. Then he sighed and tucked his napkin deeper into the neckband of his red waist. And he ate plum preserves and strawberry jam and grape jelly and spiced watermelon rind pickles. He felt very comfortable inside. Slowly, he ate a large piece of pumpkin pie. That's my favorite pie, pumpkin. He heard Father say to Mr. Corse, "The Hardscrabble boys came to school today, Royal tells me." "Yes," Mr. Corse said. "I hear they're saying they'll throw you out," Mr. Corse said. "I guess they'll be trying to." Father blew on the tea in his saucer. He tasted it, then drained the saucer and poured a little more tea into it. "They have driven out 2 teachers," he said. "Last year they hurt Jonas Lane so bad he died of it later." "I know," Mr. Corse said. "Jonas Lane and I went to school together. He was my friend." Father did not say any more. Well, those Hardscrabble boys are not kind. I can't imagine. Chapter 3, Winter Night. And we'll pick up there tomorrow. And I hope you enjoyed. I know today's a little shorter, but I hope you enjoyed it and enjoyed Almanzo's dinner description. Bye. Take care.